Good morning, children. So let's start with our next lesson, that is getting ready for adventures. We have two lessons in Unit Test 2 from the reader book. One is Friends and Flatterers, and the other one we have Getting Ready for Adventures. So this is really very interesting. Before starting, let's go through the picture, which is going to guide you to know the lesson, much better. So let's find out. See, this is the picture of that main character about whom you're going to read. This is Don Quixote. Now the villagers, they gave him a very good name called Mr. Quijana. So let's find out more about him. So this chapter is there, Getting Ready for Adventures. You can write Unit Test 2. Unit Test 2, so make it more clear. Before starting the lesson, let's read something about the author. So this story is, the story of Spain. So let's read something about the author. The name of the author is, I'll make it more clear to you. It is Miguel de Cervantes. Miguel de Cervantes was born in small town in Spain. His adventures as a sailor became the basis for many of his stories. Cervantes published the first part of Don Quixote. See the spelling, children. See, this is a spelling, but the correct pronunciation is Don Quixote in 1605, and it was an instant success. The second part of Don Quixote was published in 1615. So let's read more about this interesting story. An interesting character. Yeah, this is an extract from Miguel de Cervantes' great novel about Don Quixote. See the correct pronunciation they have mentioned here, so you can also underline. So this person, is the eccentric gentleman. Please underline eccentric. Eccentric in general, if you want to say, this means strange. The proper meaning is a gentleman who has odd and unusual ideas. So you can very well imagine, we are going to talk about a person. The one who has odd and unusual ideas means a strange type of person who fancied himself as a knight. Fancied means he imagined himself as a knight. Otherwise, in reality, he is not a knight, but he fancied himself as a knight. He loved reading stories about knights, chivalry. Chivalry means bravery, courage, princesses, magicians, enchanted castles, etc. So he used to read about all these type of stories. In fact, he was so absorbed in these fantasies that he slowly started to lose touch with reality and began to believe that he was one of those or these fiction heroes, imaginary heroes. He started getting so much absorbed, continuously only just reading about, thinking about all these type of stories about knights, about bravery, princes, magicians, enchanted castles, etc. He started getting so much absorbed that he started feeling himself as a knight, and he even lose touch with the reality and began to believe that he was also one of these imaginary heroes. So let's read. Many years ago, there lived in Spain a very old-fashioned gentleman who was more than 50 years, so like the appearance, 50 years of age, and quite tall and slender, means thin. His face was thin, his nose was long, and his hair turning grey. He had many odd ways and did so many strange things. He was called the good Mr. Quijana. So, like all the villagers used to say him, the good Mr. Quijana. In the hallway of his old-fashioned house, a short rusty sword was always hanging, and leaning against the wall were a rusty lance. Lance means spear, and more common nowadays is the way you can imagine javelin. So lance means javelin or spear, and a big raw hide shield. So all these type of things were there in his house. So let's read once again. In the hallway of his old-fashioned house, a short rusty sword was always hanging. Leaning against the wall were a rusty